I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to the Conversation with Al McFarlane. Starting a little late today. Technology is amazing, but we work through it. And we're glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Today is Tuesday, the 9th of June, 2026. Let me say happy birthday to my eldest daughter, Celine White. Uh, Happy birthday, Celine. We love you dearly and thank you for being you and being a blessing in our lives. Today's program is an excellent one. I'm pleased to have a, a new friend and an old friend, one and the same, brother Jim Embry,
Thank
who
you.
is a guiding light in the movement for sustainability, for justice, for uh, food sovereignty, and for being a decent human being. Jim
Amen.
Embry, brother, good to see you. How you doing? Thank you for
I'm
joining me today.
blessed to be here with you.
Well, I feel
Absolutely.
the same way. And what I wanted to do is just hang out today. You and I talk
Yes.
about the world as we see it, as we experience it. One of the things that brought me to your attention was a piece that you sent in and that I published in Inside News about a
Thank you.
person that is a friend of yours and therefore a friend of mine. His name was Carlo Petrini. And the article that you wrote, I think we edited for space in our newspaper, was called Carlos Petrini and the Great Remembering Through Food. So let me have you talk about that first of all. Talk about who Carlos Petrini is and why is food central to your work.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Al, for this discussion. I think we've had the blessing to be on your show twice.
Mhm.
Part of our Joy and Justice journey in June for 2 years in a row to Twin Cities, invited by another dear person who was the bubble maker. That means our friend Bubble Man Giles. Okay, and
Mhm.
we just love Melvin so much, and we need to have some people step into his footprints.
Mhm.
But I've been blessed to have met a number of people around the world who recognize the centrality of the question of food and agriculture. The last 500 years, based upon European colonization around the world, the Europeans went around the world and they dispossessed, we call indigenous people from their land. And then they also displaced African people out of our lands to do
Mhm.
what? To do food and agriculture. The global commerce back in the 1500s was based upon agricultural products, sugarcane, rice, cotton, hemp, tobacco, and things like that.
Mhm.
And we maintain that it is the foundational contradiction of injustice in
Huh.
our country and most countries around the world. So it's central to the question of injustice. And it's also, we say, because of the nature of it and our disconnect from food and agriculture, it being sacred, a sacred sacrament next to air that we breathe, water that we drink. Okay. Food is also essential, and we call it a sacred sacrament, and there's a huge disconnect from it. So
Mhm.
food and ag also represent, we say, a fulcrum point for transformation, that the injustice embedded within agricultural systems has permeated all of our institutions
Huh.
with injustice. And if we can begin to make greater inroads in this whole agriculture food disconnect, we can also begin to make greater inroads into all the other institutions globally. That's what we say. And along the way, we've had many people who have paved the way. You know, Carlo Petrini, Italian guy, about my same age, born the same year, a month apart. Okay, part of the
How
led.
old are you guys? How old are you both?
Oh, I'm 77. He's 77
Okay.
as well. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we're up there. We've
Okay.
been
Born
around since the
48.
dinosaurs. Okay,
Born in 48.
49. Yeah,
Born in
yeah, and yeah,
49. Okay. All right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, and we've both been around since the dinosaurs. Our brains are fossilized. I keep telling young people, pick my brain while you can. There's
Mhm.
still a little bit left up here. Okay. but Carlo reminds me, Al, of our dear brothers Booker T. Washington and
Mm,
Washington Carver in
mhm,
many ways.
mhm,
Here we have people, as we know, Booker T and Carver, who were both enslaved,
mhm,
okay? But they were two individuals who believed in this maximum. Yes, we're ordinary people, but we're meant to live on the earth and do things that are extraordinary.
mm,
That was the life. Booker T. Washington, as we know, came out of enslavement, founded Tuskegee Institute, later university. He had
mhm,
the wisdom, the smarts to bring Carver in, okay, to head up the agricultural research department there at Tuskegee. In many ways, like Carlo Petrini, an Italian guy who began what we call now the slow food movement in the 90s in Italy. It was locally a local movement within Rome. It became a national movement within Italy. Then later it became an international movement, a global movement. But 4 years ago, Carlo Petrini had the wisdom, had the understanding to select a young brother from Uganda named Eddie McKeeby to become now the president of an international slow food. So we have, rather than having, and we loved him dearly, a white guy, a white Italian being the face of slow food, now we have not
mhm,
only a black African face, we
mhm.
also have the face of a young person.
Uh,
So in my view, when Carlo again selected Eddie McKeeby to become the president now of international slow food, there were three things that had been in his mind, and that is the future of slow food and the agricultural global movement lies in the hands of young people. The movement also lies in the future of the work more of the global South countries than the
mhm,
global North countries.
mhm.
And also the future lies in how well we, as an Earth community, recognize the huge debt that we owe to the African continent and how well we can support and help the African continent regain leadership, regain ascendancy is also part of the future that Carlo understood.
That's a lot. That's a lot to unpack. This is a wonderful conversation. You touched many of the things that I just think about all day, every day, and listen to and do the research on and write about. So I'm excited about this conversation
Yeah.
and digging into this. Let me tell listeners here on KFAI, if you want to be in this conversation, we want you in the conversation. In fact, that's the whole point. This is about us connecting, us
Amen.
communicating, and able to, willing to, excited to share our stories, to share our understanding, and to invite others to know what we know. We want to share the knowledge locally, one by one, globally, using this technology
Yes.
to connect with people around the country, around the community, around the world. So if you're listening on KFAI or joining on one of the social media platforms, we're streaming to LinkedIn, we're streaming to Facebook. We're also streaming on YouTube, two channels, one for the Black Press of America, Black Press USA, and an Inside News YouTube channel. I've put the QR code in top of the screen here. Join the conversation. Click on, and we'll see you, and we'll bring you into the conversation. And if nothing else, if you simply want to share your thoughts, we've got an active chat, and you can chat on any of the platforms I mentioned. We'll show up here, we'll shout you out, let us know where you're watching from, and most of all, we welcome your participation, your involvement. You know, so what happened with your friend Carlo? Tell a little bit more about him and celebrate him a little bit. Yeah, you already have, but let's
Yes. Yes.
lift him up.
Yes. Yes. Well, Carlo died, a few weeks ago.
Mhm.
And for me, uh, kind of suddenly, in that I have been to Italy for this global gathering called Terra Madre 8 times.
Mhm.
And I met Carlo back in 2008. When I went the first time, I had no idea that I would be going 7 more times, and I would see him each time. And as elder brothers, okay, we would have engaging conversations, discussions, dancing with the young people in the evening. And I went to a couple of international slow food congresses. One was in China, Chengdu, China. One was in Italy, where again we hung out, had dinner, and talked a lot. So he was a very dear and beloved friend, an elder to us, and we loved him very dearly. And so he made this transition, if you will, and we say like he has joined the cohorts of many other people who have lived life very fully.
Mhm.
And in many cases, like he and I, out of our agrarian roots, we never lost our connection to land, to farming, to food, agriculture. Okay, and we just and so he had a vision for something beyond just industrial farming methods, fast food, and how it kind of began was that in the 90s, because of the various international trade agreements like NAFTA, I call it GRAFTA, where
Mm.
the large corporations are just impacting the entire world and disrupting the entire world. But so McDonald's was trying to move into Rome, and Carlo and many of his other friends who were journalists and writers and activists began to protest around Rome in front of the soon to become McDonald's site. And because of all the international trade agreements, they lost that battle. They said, well, we know what we're against. We're against fast food that arose, as you know, Al, probably in the 30s and 40s. Okay, the rise of fast food and the large industrial kind of farming methodologies. And he says, well, if we are against fast food, then we must be for slow food. That's how
Uh,
it came into being. Okay, and again, it was largely centered in Rome, then across all of Italy. This
mhm.
resistance movement, resisting, protesting fast food, but it was also the return. I call it the Great Remembering in my article. The Great Remembering, a return to how humans had been living. Okay,
Mhm.
for the past 2 or 3 million years. The rise of slow food arose again around World War One and fast food around World War One and World War Two.
Mhm.
When I went to Italy, Al, the first time in 2008, my aunt Bessie asked me, she said, "Well, Jimmy, you're going to go where?" "I'm going to Italy, for this slow food gathering." And she says, well, Jimmy, what is slow food?" I said, "Aunt Bessie, it's what y'all been doing
Hmm.
your whole lives.
Yep.
It's what y'all
Yep.
been doing your whole lives. Small farmers, agrarian people, pretty much eating off the land, sharing the food, working together in community, building community after the Civil War, building small farming communities, building churches, establishing Rosenwald schools, building what back then called Negro Business League, building media, newspapers. Is what slow food is about. It's what y'all have been doing. It's important, I
Mhm.
think, for all of us to recognize this idea of remembering and going back and getting those traditions. As I mentioned, that's why I say that Carlo reminds me of Booker T. Washington and our beloved George Washington Carver.
Mhm. Let me sit with the thought that you triggered in my mind just now, Jim Emery, when you talked about remembering.
Yes.
And I can tell you that one of the times that word itself rang loudly in my bones, in my spirit, in my soul, I was listening to our friend Elder Mahmoud El Kadi at one of the early iterations of this program when we were up at Lucille's Kitchen over on Plymouth Avenue in North Minneapolis, where UROC is now. We called this the Insight KMOJ Public Policy Forum at Lucille's Kitchen. And Mahmoud was talking about remembering. And like ordinary people, I took the ordinary meeting and you forgot something, remember it. But he said, no, I'm talking about uh, remembering differently. And to
Yes.
remember this way means to
Yes.
understand that something had been dismembered.
Yes.
And so let's look differently at what remembering means, what it is.
Yeah.
And in that context, he said, remembering is putting the body back together again. That which had been scattered, the
Yeah.
dry bones in the wilderness,
That's
right?
That's right.
Can these bones be made to live again?
Yes.
And that is the act of a great remembering, where you reassemble those that had been detached into an original form,
Yes.
the early form, the true form, the essential,
Mhm.
and you move forward. So that's what that triggers in me, the thought of remembering. So I love the idea that this is about the great remembering.
Yes.
Let me ask you, we'll pivot
Yes.
a little bit to talk more about your own personal development, your coming into consciousness,
Yes.
as you describe it. What's been your path? How did you start? Where did you start? Let me put the question this way.
Uh-huh.
In 1949, what did you see and what did you know?
Hmm. I would say, Al, as you know, I was a recipient of the James Beard Leadership Award back in 2023.
Mhm.
And when I was on stage with Jessica B. Harris and the other recipients, and I was giving my thank you short talk, I said, this award really isn't about me, it's about we. So my beginning didn't begin with me.
That's right.
It began with generations, as you know, generations of ancestors
Mhm.
and their spirits that now live through me,
Mhm.
okay, by me. What I mean is that I come from about 5 generations. I call it the proud progeny of African people who were trafficked and forced across the Atlantic into the Appalachian region of Kentucky, okay, and then who always wanted to be free, who always close to the land. There are stories we have of one of our great 5 generations back aunt who was a midwife and the herbal healer, and we came over here, as you know, out of the continent with all kinds of skills. Okay, we weren't quote slaves. We were human beings that were very skilled in every aspect of civilization,
Mhm.
including agriculture, and in Kentucky, as well as the husbandry and the connection with horses, thoroughbred horses, part of Kentucky, flavors,
Mhm.
came here as skilled people. And then we were placed into positions to use various skills, like in the South Carolina Low Country, where our dear friend Etta Fields Black, Professor at Carnegie Mellon, just wrote a book a couple years ago called Combi. It's about the Combi River raid that Harry Tubman led, but it was a rice growing area. And the book by Black Rice by Sister Carney talks about these Europeans went over to Africa to get people out of Mali, Senegal, who were rice growers and
Mhm.
engineers to come over and work in Low Country to help build the rice plantations. So I come, Al, from generations of what I call agrarian intellectual activists. I have in my family, for example, 3 great grandfathers that fought with the U.S. colored troops out of Kentucky. 3. One of them died in the Civil War. His wife, my direct line, great grandmother, okay, was
Mhm.
left to say as a single mom with 6 kids, but she had enough smarts and love and inspiration to eventually, after emancipation, all of her children wound up owning small farms. Her youngest son, again, my direct line, went to college in 1879
Hmm.
at Berea College. So you asked me, well, what, Jim? When did you begin in '49? I said, look here, you know how these ancestral spirits work, okay? They be calling your name generations ago. My grandmother was carrying my mother, okay, inside of her, and at 4 months gestation, my mother had all the eggs she will ever have. So I was there as an egg
Hmm.
inside my mother, inside of my grandmother.
Mm.
emotions around.
Uh,
My grandmother was living with her parents again, who'd been formerly enslaved and who went to college, and they would tell their kids, "Your daddy fought in the Civil War, and because he fought in the war and died in the war, our promise has to be, as we get our farms, that we would never ever again, as they would tell, work for white people."
mm,
And
mm,
they were activists. They were put off the bus or out in the 30s, long before, 20 years before the Rosa Parks historic sit down. So I come out of that kind of a tradition of agrarian intellectual activist. I came along, Al. My mother was the Corps president in 1959.
mhm,
Right? I'm 10 years old, but my mom was put off the bus with her grandfather when she was 12 years old,
mhm,
13 years old, and she
mhm,
thought, well, hell, if I can be put off the bus and be with my grandfather, my sons can too. So at 10
mhm,
years old, I was on picket lines, weighed-ins, being cussed out, spit on. And I grew up thinking, Al, that all the families, that all the kids were like this.
mhm.
Realized that wasn't always the case.
Right.
I marched with King in 1964 at the March on Frankfurt. I went to his funeral because I had been an activist, within CORE, NAACP, SNCC, and the Black Student Union movement. And I was asked to be, a funeral marshal, which means you wear a
Mhm,
white armband, a
mhm,
funeral processional, things of that nature. So I come again out of an agrarian intellectual family culture, and I don't know any better.
Well, this is wonderful. I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm talking with elder in community, Jim Embry. Jim, I'm about 1 or 2 years your senior.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah.
well, we're talking about the same time frame, I think, in terms of our experiences, and our approaches, I believe, are similar in
Yes.
that I too have the sense of the weight, the presence, and the power of antiquity,
Yes.
that this has never passed away. It
Yes.
remains present in every second. And to the degree that history is present, it makes me know that the future is also present. You described that so eloquently in describing your presence in your mom, in her mom. That's the wheel in the middle of the wheel. That's
That's
the
right.
eternal flow right there, right? And so we carry that, and it means that we live a life of work
Yeah.
to continue to reconnect, to rebuild, to restore, to seek justice, to seek
Mhm.
peace,
Mhm.
and to do that in a way that is now being called organic, natural. And you are focusing, among other things, on food as one of the transmitters of
Yes.
justice, of freedom, of
Yeah.
health, of healing, and of possibility. And in the process, you are examining the systems and processes and the people who upset the pattern, who were disruptors. And you've also described why they disrupted in the creation of a global food and transportation
Yeah.
distribution system that displaced
Yes.
the local, slow,
Yes.
natural, organic way of being. Am
Yes.
I saying that the right way?
Oh, you sure are. You sure are. Absolutely. And we recognize, use the word organic. At times I get asked by people, well, Embry, like, why is organic food cost more than the regular food? I says,
Mhm,
well, we've been eating organically for 2 million years. It
mhm,
was only after World War I and II,
mhm,
in the 30s and 40s, when we came back from the Europe with all these chemical weapons that got turned into fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides.
mhm,
Okay, so the alternative food ought to be this industrialized food that should be called alternatives, not organic. My mom, would say, "Well, son, you helped form a food co-op in '72, and y'all have the pillars of the foundation upon local food, organic food, and healthy food." I said, "Yes, Mom, that's right. You're right." He said, well, what is organic food? I said, what y'all were doing on the farm with all
That's right.
farm inputs, cow poop, chicken poop,
Mm-hmm.
hog poop, muck, leaves, food scraps. Okay. This is what you all were doing. I said, this food we're eating now, and you shouldn't even call it food in many ways. What we get in the stores, you shouldn't call it a bag of chemicals.
Right.
But yes. So I also use Al, one of my favorite metaphors is like a quilt. And where I live now on our family farm that goes back to 1879, in the living room is where the women largely, okay, my mom, grandparents, aunts would sit around with these pieces of cloth and no design as far as I could see, pieces of cloth, and sit there and talk about, family and culture and church and whatever else and farming, and would sew pieces together and make a quilt. Okay. And you're right. So part of the great remembering is like, I call it requilting.
Requilting, yeah.
Sanity. Requilting these connections with the land, the pollinators, the air, the water. These are all our relatives. Okay. And we understood that before we were yanked out of the continent and brought over here. And great remembering is also means that we haven't lost that kind of what we call Africanisms.
That's
we
right.
haven't lost that African cultural reference points. Okay. And now we need to reach back, if you will, into our innate wisdom that's there, innate wisdom, and then broaden it to where it fits into the 21st century. That's the challenge we have now. And I think that Carlo Petrini, again, so well, he began with a small activist circle in Rome. Now it is a global movement called Slow Food, and the Terra Madre we're going to in September happens every 2 years, means Mother Earth, and it draws people from all around the world. Almost every country in the world comes and has an exhibition booth, and you get to go there and hang out 4 or 5 days.
Graphic. Put the graphic up, Jarrett, and you can talk about Terra Madre if you would. Jim, put that on the screen, Jarrett.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So part of Carlo's trajectory was that he recognized, as an old leftist and as an old activist, that the vision had to keep expanding. Okay, beyond just the protest movements in Rome, beyond just the Italian people and their nation, but it had to be a global movement. But it also couldn't just be about coming together to buy food and to celebrate food. You had to build some infrastructure in it to help manifest the vision. So they began in 2002 by having this Terra Madre gathering every 2 years. And I've been 8 times, looking forward to my 9th time this September. And it brings together people from almost every country in the world. It's 5 days. It might involve 10,000 delegates, 180 different countries, but about 200,000 people are involved over those 4 or 5 days in all kinds of workshops and speakers and art performances, exhibitions, and all kinds of tasting of all kinds of incredible food. It's like being at the UN, Al. Being at the UN. If you want to focus on the African continent, you get to go there and hang out with people from at least 35 African countries. But Carlo also recognized the need to have other kinds of structures that involves young people. There's a whole slow food youth network. He recognized the need to create our own university. So in Pollenza and Bra, Italy, we have the University of Gastronomic Sciences. This is how Eddie McKeevy, who is, again, the new president, when I went there in 2008, Al, and Carlo was speaking at the opening ceremony, he talked about the debt that we owed Africa. And he meant we, meaning, I think, European countries primarily.
Yeah.
In many ways, the whole world, the whole world. We've all been colonized. And the way he then went about saying, well, here's how we think we can begin to repay the debt. Now, as you know, Al, following the news, the UN now
Yeah.
give a great talk there about reparations and
Yep.
the repair of the African trafficking, African slave trade, okay, whatever. And so Carlos said back in 2008 that we owe a debt, and here are the kind of things we can begin to do to repay the debt. For example, they began with the University of allowing African students to come to the university for free.
Mm-hmm.
And out of that relationship, Eddie McKeeby came from Uganda, began his baccalaureate and his master's degree program. Then he went on to become the East Africa coordinator for another program. It was called 1,000 Gardens in Africa. And that was how the International Slow Food Movement recognized that one of the ways that we can begin to help support African like remembering of agricultural base is to help provide funding for gardens, largely a lot of school gardens. Called 1,000 Gardens. Well, the first 2 years, we got those 1,000. They said, well, we'll make it 10,000. Then we got 10,000 way back in, I think, 2018. They said, well, no more numbers, forget the numbers. We're just going to call it Gardens in Africa. And now we have, I think, some 12,000. And so Eddie McKeeby, when he left the university, he was appointed as the East Africa coordinator for the Gardens in Africa program. I'm sure even back then in 2018, I'm sure that Carlo Petrini recognized his gift of leadership, understanding, the deeper understanding of this injustice around food and agriculture and what it means back home in Uganda, what it could mean globally. I'm sure they were grooming him. He then became one of the board vice presidents. Then, of course, in 2022, he was then named as the president. So, and we also have a program called Earth Markets, okay, which is like a farmer's market kind of idea, and we use that around the country, around the world, but also we have most of the Earth Markets in the continent of Africa. We have the program like the Ark of Taste, which is almost like if you were Noah and his wife, and you were being asked to round up all the animals and plants, and in this case, seeds, to save. Which one would they save? And so we now have about 7,000 items within the Ark of Taste. Includes seeds, heirloom seeds, a great remembering, but also includes various types of.
It's called the Ark of what? Ark of what?
The Ark of ARK, Ark of Taste.
Okay. Taste. Okay.
Yeah, and so cataloging. Each country can submit different items. It can be seeds. It can be animals. Now, our dear friends, Al, who go every year with us out of their nation, we call them the Navajo, misnamed Dene people. They've been utilizing, if you will, churro sheep for about 500 years. Brought them over, and of course, all the blankets and all their things they make out of wool come from churro sheep. Well, the churro sheep is on the Ark of Taste. We have friends up in north with Norway and Finland and Iceland. We call them the Sami people, and they're the reindeer people. Well, the reindeer are on the Ark of Taste. So, but again, these are just some of the different programs that we have developed over the years that is seen as also part of this. How do we, as a Slow Food International organization, repay our debt to Africa?
I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm pleased to be in conversation with my dear friend, Jim Embry. And this is an important conversation. We want you to be part of it as well. We're glad that you're listening here on KFAI. If you want to join the conversation, we'll put the QR code back on the screen if you're watching the program on any of the digital channels, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. We'd love to have you comment and we can shout out your comments. If you make a comment, we'd appreciate it. Most importantly, we want you to know how much we value your presence, your work, your life, your intention, your mission. And we're here to celebrate our individual and collective awakening,
Yes.
and our confidence that the assignment that we've taken on is an assignment that's worthy, and that we are worthy of the assignment as well. And so we move forward with a sense of joy, a sense of purpose, a sense of both vulnerability and invincibility. We know that every breath is precious, and each one could be the last one. But the last one simply means we start doing something different.
That's right. That's
We
right.
never leave. We're going to be here
That's right.
forever and ever, because we've always been here,
Yes.
right? And so it's a question of being attuned to that flow of existence, and to celebrate it, and to basically walk in that light, in that spirit, in that vibe. And it's a powerful thing. It connects you to people all over the world. Jim, I remember, thought just pops up and I'll share it, being in Moscow, and I'd met a guy from Ghana who was studying and staying there. A lot of African and Caribbean students in Moscow were living in a place called it Lumumba University. It was a division of, I guess, the University of Moscow, but this was tailored to bring, as you said, free education opportunity to African and Caribbean people. So I met a lot of Africans in Moscow. And once I was walking across some government building and saw some guys that were swarthy, is the right word, tawny skin, brown skin, maybe closer to your color than mine.
Yeah.
And if you're watching this on the radio, I would call myself a medium brown man, and I would call Jim Embry a less medium brown, brown than me, but brown nonetheless, right?
Right.
So some people that looked like they had also Asian or Indian features. And I asked the Ghanaian friend, who are these guys? He said, those are people from Tajikistan. And so, well, what are they doing here? I said, well, they're part of the Soviet Union. I was there really at the close, at the folding of the Soviet Union. I think it was 1991.
Yes.
Yes. And they were there pressing their case as what they called themselves small nations inside the Soviet org, the Soviet world.
Yes. Yes.
And the thought that I wanted to share with you is that through connecting with this young Ashanti guy from Ghana who was studying, who was also a journalist studying journalism and science, and therefore we connected because I was there in a journalist role, and he said, I speak fluent Russian, and the people from Tajikistan spoke their language and spoke Russian. So we had a conversation.
Yeah, right.
And so the point is, we can connect.
That's right.
We can connect. It's a question of the will, and understanding that at the end of the day, all of us are men and women who have so much in common, have everything in common, actually. Almost nothing that's not in common.
Exactly.
and the problem is the things that we elevate too often are things that dissect and dissipate, destroy, all the D words, rather than things that renovate, regenerate, and respect, right? So it's a question of us understanding that that is part of our capability. The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. We carry it all in us. And how do we then, with intention, talk in a way, speak in a way, connect in a way that allows and calls forth the very best that we can have, that we can see in each other, and that we hope others see in us.
Absolutely.
That's kind of the message. And that's kind of the spirit of what you're doing, I believe.
Oh yeah. Very much so, Al. You mentioned the word light. I advise young people. I said, well, life is very simple as a human for me. It's to bring light in
Mhm.
and send light out.
Mhm.
Don't bring it in and hoard the light. Okay, don't hoard it.
That's
Bring
right.
it in and send it out. I wrote an article that's up on the web. It's called "Seeding Stardust." And oftentimes,
Say it again.
seeding, like in seeding
Uh-huh.
stardust. It's on
Okay.
the Humans in Nature website. Uh, Oftentimes, when I'm asked to say who I am, like you said earlier, Al, I say that I am stardust condensed in human form,
Mm.
which means I am all that's come before me. Okay,
Mhm. Mhm.
all that's come before me, all that's here now, and all that will come after me.
That's right.
Who we truly are.
That's
Okay,
right.
and we're, as you were saying, we're here and we're meant to continue to figure out what it means to be human.
Mhm.
See, we've been around 2, maybe 3 million years as a
Mhm.
species,
Mhm.
and we're probably, if not the youngest species on the earth, one of the youngest.
Mhm.
Trees, okay, that we see all around us and outside of our window here,
Hmm.
they've been around 200 million years.
Ah.
They know who they are. They don't waste anything. They only absorb just what they need. Okay, they get along. They have all kinds of networks. Like we have our World Wide Web. They have underground and underground. Okay, World Wide Web that roots and fungi and worms and whatever all help transmit communication. We're working out real quickly with about 17 different universities
Mhm.
around our 6 pathways to a sustainable future. And at Cornell, we're up there working with them on the whole language of plants. How do plants and trees talk to each other? But also, how do humans talk to plants and trees? And as we know and remember, again, the idea of remembering, our beloved George Washington Carver
Mhm.
said he didn't discover nothing. He didn't discover no ways to use a peanut plant. But each morning he said, I went out to the garden, okay, and talked to the plants, the trees, the animals, and that the peanut plant told me what I could make out of her.
Wow.
My great remembering, Al,
Yeah.
species is to be able to, again, tap into this sometimes long forgotten memory, this innate wisdom, this divine wisdom, this light field, operate more at the 7th chakra, the third eye, the eye of Horus, okay? It's where we need to get to where we were able to think at 360. We go to college, if we're lucky, we come out maybe a 90-degree thinker, maybe a 120-degree thinker. And your show is such a marvelous show, okay, that helps us move ourselves to a wider lens of
Mhm.
approaching 360. And then when
Mhm.
we do that, then we will mature as a species. We use the
Mhm.
butterfly metaphor as symbolic of our work around joy and justice, sustainability, meaning that humans right now, we've been caterpillars for a long time, okay, making a mess, pooping everywhere, living on one plant. Now we're in a cocoon stage, and there are those, as we know, the MAGA people want to go back and
That's
be a
right.
caterpillar. And
Yeah.
we're saying, no, no, no. Okay, Al, you're saying, I'm an imaginal cell. And we're
Mhm.
meant to be as a species like a butterfly that can
Mhm.
fly all over the world, as you
Mhm.
said earlier, recognize our connection with each other as humans, connection with the air people, the water people, the plant people, the animal people, the fire people. They're all our relations, okay? They're
Mhm.
all our relations. And so our work and shows like yours and many other media that we know, they're meant to provide a remembering and a memory going forward, okay, of how to be a butterfly. We got to
Mhm.
tell people who wants to feet,
Mhm.
yeah, you like to be a feet on one plant, but you're destined to be wings.
That's
Okay,
right.
wing.
Yeah.
And you who was the bud, okay, you're destined to be the proboscis, and you can go
Mhm.
around and collect the nectar and the honey. So that's what we're. So the metaphor of joy and justice came out of the whole slow food movement. And my partner Jennifer Bailey and I, about 3 or 4 years ago, after 50 years of working in this whole effort, this whole global movement, developed what's called the 6 pathways to a sustainable future, and they're all kind of grounded in, if you will, the slow food, Terra Madre ideology and philosophy and spiritual guidance, earth-centric, woman-centric, indigenous wisdom, George Washington Carver, and the African-American ethos, youth, art, and hip hop. Okay, we're saying if you're not involving people not involved in art and youth and hip hop, you can't think about a global movement. When I go around the world and see young people, they're all doing hip hop, and also the Terra Madre and the seeds. The 5th pathway, the last pathway, has to do with vision that is transformative. And again, it's the insight news, and what you all do, such wonderful programming, helps us understand that our work has to be at 3 levels. We have to resist the onslaught. We got to create alternatives, and the media is an alternative. And we got to develop vision. And you all help us, okay, in all 3 of those dimensions, especially around vision. What is our vision for the future?
That's amazing. So tell me, what was your path to James Beard? How did you get there? What's the work path, the experience path, the training path?
Well, I think again, I'm blessed, Al, to have come out of this agrarian, intellectual activist culture. I live on a farm now that goes back to 1879 in our family. Okay,
you're in Kentucky or where?
Kentucky, yeah. Madison County, Kentucky. So like 5 generations of folks who were on the land, in the land, loving the land, and things of that nature, and healing from the land. Okay, my mom lost, her daughter, my sister, when she was 6 years old, and because of segregation and segregated hospitals, and she had back then what was called a nervous breakdown. And she went back to the farm where her mother was to help heal. So land connection is about production of food items and seeds and animals. It's also about healing as well. So that's my tradition. And then because my grandparents were part of the Carver movement, if you will, the Booker T and the Carver movement and whatever, then they were part of all kinds of cooperatives, farmer cooperatives, Black School Association Cooperative, Black Church Association conferences, Black business cooperatives. Okay, so I helped found in 1972 what we call Good Foods Co-op, Natural Foods Co-op in 72. And I went on to extend my work around social activism out of the Black Student Union movement, Black Power movement, the work with the Black Panther Party feeding programs, SNCC, and whatever else, to recognize the important intersect of food and agriculture. And I've done, in 6 years, 1,000 things have helped in our county create schools gardens in every school. 40 of our schools, elementary, middle school, high school, all have gardens. I helped inspire an agricultural high school. I've worked through food and ag with what I call women at risk, women who are healing from domestic violence, women who are healing from drug and alcohol addiction, to what we call therapeutic horticulture. I've been a part of all kinds of conferences and global movements. I went with Danny Glover to Brazil as part of the Momento Centera and the World Social Forum. I was in Cuba when Fidel was living to study organic agriculture in Cuba. We got friends all around the globe. We got friends, again, part of the whole slow food Terra Madre movement with friends in Kenya, and the whole 5th pathway, the Terra Madre and the Ark of Taste. Over there we have, Al, talking about a great remembering, we have friends over there as part of the Kenya Seed Savers Network, 80,000 people. Not 8,000, 80,000 people, okay, in Kenya are part of their Kenyan Seed Savers Network as a way to make sure that everyone is understanding this wonderful biodiversity tradition within Kenya, within Africa. You go to some of their markets, and they might have 40 kinds of beans. Not one kind of bean, okay? 40 kinds of beans. Yeah. But those friends joined us in Corvallis, Oregon, a year ago with this International Organic Cedar Lines Conference, and we'll see them again in September. Okay, here in September for the Terra Madre gathering. So I've done a ton of things. I've got different books coming out, about my 8 trips to Terra Madre. I've helped form within Kentucky the Kentucky Black Farmers Association. I've helped form those in 4 or 5 states. I've helped form food co-ops, mostly from the Madrigan model of worker co-ops. I have helped establish farmers markets. I have helped create within universities, within the land grant colleges. Again, I work right now with 17 different universities.
Mm-hmm.
Several HBCUs, Spelman, FAMU, Dillard University, Prairie View, Arkansas, University of Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Central State University. I mean,
Sure.
So I think that what happened as well, real quickly, within Slow Food and the James Beard Award, they came under kind of criticism before COVID. So how can you go to Chicago and wherever you go, big James Beard Awards, and there are very few people of color there, and even less people who are African American there getting these awards around food and ag, and we were the foundation of this stuff.
That's right.
And they said, well, so COVID hit. They spent about 2 years sitting back, doing an assessment, and said, yeah, you all are right. We said, no, we know we're right. So they began coming out of COVID with a more expanded view of what we should see with the James Beard Awards, and they began to broaden the categories. They also put people of color on the review board, okay? And a dear friend of mine now named Tanya Holland, who's out in Oakland, California, has several great cookbooks out. I think had recognized some of my work over the years, and she serves on the review board. And someone like her, I'm sure, suggested my name to be in nomination for the 2023 James Beard Leadership Awards. There were 6 of us who were recognized. 3 of us, what we call seed people. And Alan, it was such a wonderful divine blessing to be in Chicago at the Opera House on stage with these 5 other people, and 3 of us are seed people, and the beloved, the beautiful Jessica B. Harris, High on the Hog fame, is the MC, and she's saying that we recognize that you can be a great chef, a restaurant owner, but it begins with seeds.
That's right.
And tonight, 3 of our people, are seed people, and I was acting the fool on the stage. It's on video. I was acting up, country boy, Kentucky. And she politely kind of pulled me. Anyway, so that's why we call it Joy and Justice. And
that's amazing. That's amazing. I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm talking with Jim Embry, an advocate for our existence, for our humanity. And we're talking about what it means to be here and to have been here and to be here in the future, because that future exists right now in this moment. Jim, I wanted to ask you a couple of things. First of all, I want to thank Susan Budig, and also I think I see Harriet Anderson. Thank them for their Facebook likes, and you mentioned your colleague Jennifer Bailey. Thank you, Jennifer, for your reaction and for the heart. And I want to encourage anybody else that's watching or connecting with us on one of the streaming platforms to leave a comment. Let us know where you are. Let us know if you like the conversation, and give us your ideas of things we can talk about in the future. If this is the kind of content you like, we want you to subscribe to the channel and help us grow our connection to people around the country, around the world. You're talking about farming. We had a show a few weeks ago with a brother named Todd Western. I don't know if you know him or not, but you should know him. I'll introduce you. He's a farmer. So he and I work together. I'm on the board of Greater Twin Cities United Way. He's a development officer for Greater Twin Cities United Way, but he is a fifth generation farmer, and the farm his family has held since slavery ended is in Iowa, Waterloo, Iowa area. So he's a soybean farmer, and has been doing that for his family since slavery, since the Civil War, right? And he organized Black farmers in Iowa, and just doing great stuff. So I enjoy talking to him the way I enjoy talking to you, because you have this understanding of how the whole thing works, and why we need to be in it and make it happen for us. I always like talking about people traveling, and you've mentioned several places around the world, but tell me some stories, things that you learned from being with people in other places on the planet. I love to travel. I've been to Uganda and to Kenya, just transit, lots of time in Ghana. My family is on my father's side, Jamaican Cuban, Cuban born, dad from Oriente in Cuba, and then his parents all Jamaicans, and all of us obviously. I love the term. I heard this term from Professor Rex Nettleford at a conference on communications in Kingston. He described us as New World Africans, Africans in the New World. I love that. That's what I am. I'm an African.
That's right.
In the New World, right? And then one of the bells you hit when you spoke at the beginning was about what Europe or the world owes to Africa. So we got about 2 minutes left.
Yes.
Wherever you want to go, but what was on your mind, your spirit?
A couple of thoughts come to mind even before you mention your kind of Cuban lineage. I recall being in Cuba in 2002 when Fidel was living as part of the international delegation to the Cuban Workers Congress. Mm-hmm. While we were strolling in Havana, we ran across a brother who was, we would call him jet black, okay? Mm-hmm. And and tall and slender, and he probably was in his 90s. And we began talking to him about what his life has meant being in Cuba. He says, well, I was from the Oriente province. Mm-hmm. And Fidel came back over after being defeated the first time. He knew to come into the African district to get reinforcement. And he said, that people sometimes talk about where we are as a nation. Mm-hmm. He says, but we had a revolution in 59. And back then, many of us, calling them Black Cubans, African Cubans, by all measures were illiterate, weren't being educated, weren't in leadership, very poor. He said, so I evaluate the revolution, the last 40 years, upon where we have been.
Jim, let me stop you there. Let me stop because I think I've overextended my time. We started late. We may be off the air right now. I don't even know for sure, but that's how involved in this conversation I am. It's been a wonderful conversation, and if we ended up exceeding our time on KFAI, apologies. Number one. Number two, the people who are listening on our social media will still get the conversation. But let's come back and do this more, and maybe you can arrange for us to meet with the president from Uganda.
Absolutely.
Let's make that happen. Listen, brother, thank you.
Thank you. Love you, brother.
Hang on for a second. Hang on a second.
Yeah,
I'm Al McFarlane. We'll see you next time.
Yeah.